Right, everybody, thank you very much for joining us for this session. My name is Anne Neumann. I currently am located in Norway, which is a resource-rich country. But I'm German. There has been a lot of German bashing going on this morning as well. So this is an exciting session. I'm going to be joined by three experts. We are going to represent the three-legged stool of what IAEE really is. It's academia. We have Panagiotis here. I'm not going to spend much time on introducing yourselves, because you're all experts, but we have an engineer here who is an academic. He is a research director of a big research institute in Athens. We have here Constantinos. I will put them into the government sort of area now. So he is in charge of the hydrogen strategy in Greece. And online, I'm very glad to welcome Mariarosa Baroni, and she is basically combining the experience from industry, from businesses, because she's active as a president, combining all Italian or the main Italian companies engaged in motor engineering and production plant engineering, distribution, and end users. The question that was posed for this session, I was asked to chair, is whether we can, the last 45 minutes it was LNG, they're trying to hold on to their industry, we understand that, okay, but maybe hydrogen is the solution, the green silver bullet to solve all this, or is it just a distant hope? I have asked the participants of this panel to come up with some statements. I hope we can engage in some discussion. I will open the floor to you, and we only have 30 minutes left. We will see how that goes. Off you go. I'm going to ask, first of all, to hear from the Greek experience, what's happening to hydrogen.
Thank you, Anna. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'd like to thank our hosts. So I intend to start right away and give you a snapshot of where we stand in Greece in hydrogen, and then I will broaden the discussion and discuss about the European policies and the investment trends and the opportunities. So in Greece, we are currently harvesting the first results of the cross-sectoral approach we applied in the IPCI process and our national strategy. And it has been embraced vertically by our government. The process involved not only the Secretaries of Energy and Industry, but also the ones of Maritime Affairs, Transportation, Research and Innovation, and lately the Agricultural Development because of the fertilizers. So since 2 days ago, Titan Cement Group made it to the important projects of common European interest, the ones that we all know as IPCIs, or the Germans IPCEIs. And it's a project related to the incremental decarbonization of the cement industry. Well, the group, which is present in several countries, including the US, is planning also to apply hydrogen in its heavy-duty vehicle fleet. This is our third IPCI project. We have already two projects that participated in the first wave, the H2 technology, regarding electrolyzers, fuel cells, and H2 tanks, both of them in Western Macedonia. So we also have a good lineup of projects that will participate in the next IPCA waves. Blue Med from Motor Oil will participate in the SEAC, the Climate and Environmental Protection Energy Guidelines, this October. We have a hydrogen readiness pipeline network in Rato, and finally the Damcos Nam Trenose that will be part of the H2 mobility regarding hydrogen trains. And of course, there are several voices debating currently why do we give all this money in the midst of an energy crisis to something that we will see happening somewhere between 2025, 2040. Well, the answer is simple. If we want to diversify and decarbonize, we need to start now, something we didn't really do after the events of Crimea in 2014. So we have plenty of time to plan ahead how to deal the next crisis, right? So if we have to proceed, we have to be able to separate the development of a new market, a new hydrogen economy, into three distinct phases. The first phase will be the initiation of the market, which is associated with uncertainties, high cost, inadequate infrastructure that disencourage private investment. And the main goal of the state aid here should be the materialization of some first pilot buildings, some first critical infrastructure that we need. We need to contain uncertainties, reduce the cost and the maturity conditions regarding the regulatory and the operational part. Then we need the phase two, which is the creation of the market with the ultimate goal to encourage scales and bring the cost further down. The high cost continues to hinder private investments, but there is a relative predictability of the future markets so that we can see some private funds to participate with either debt or equity. And last, we will see phase three, which is the market development, market maturity stage. And it will be the phase where we will see the market being developed mainly from private investments and initiatives with minimal state aid. And mainly the point that the infrastructure can support adequately the local market and transport or trade providing security of supply. So to make my point, the announcement of President Ursula von der Leyen during her State of Union address to announce a 3 billion European hydrogen bank to help with the new market is a good start and on the right track. Why? Because different national priorities, often combined with the usual short-termism we have, and of course, the challenging times of the upcoming energy crisis, we're in the quarter one of this crisis, I think, have pointed out that we need a hydrogen dedicated funding mechanism to avoid cannibalization of hydrogen projects from other energy projects. Also, on the flip side of the Atlantic, we have the release of Clean Hydrogen Strategy Roadmap by the US Department of Energy, which is planning to have to spend 7 billion in the creation of 6 to 10 hydrogen hubs across the United States. That's another good start and on the right track. We have several challenges. Maybe we can talk about the structure, the cost structure, and I can elaborate on that. But I think I will stop here for now and we continue later.
That is very nice of you. Thank you very much for this information from your perspective. I would like to go online. I would like to introduce or invite Mariarosa Baroni from Italy to share her perspective from a very practical point, from a business perspective, before you then come in and criticize the economics and the efficiency factors and all the rest of that, okay? Thank you very much. So Mariarosa, what is your opening statement?
Well, thank you very much. I'm very sorry I cannot be there. I was really looking forward to be in Athens, but next time I will be there for sure. So thank you again. In any case, I would like to say that I heard before that what we think is extremely important is that the world should look to really a CO2 capture that would be the solution of many, many problems that we have to face now. So in any case, NGV Italy and the new association, World Gas Mobility Council, believe that the transport sector need the deployment of natural gas technologies, both CNG and LNG, in order to accelerate decarbonization. The world transport sector needs and will need for decades molecules, in particular in heavy road and maritime, as we heard before. And these have to be more and more sustainable. In particular, in the maritime sector, the main bunkering hubs around the world are developing small-scale LNG facilities as the order of ships fueled by LNG and hybrid of systems are increasing year on year. And Italy companies, shipping companies are doing their best. In addition, International Maritime Organization has set a clear roadmap for maritime transport decarbonization with the target to 2050 that is pushing ship owners and cruise companies to add LNG fuel ship and their fleet. That show how LNG will be the future of the world for many, many years. And what I heard before, what I like is that LNG should not be talked as the transition fuel, but we should say that we are in a transition period of LNG, which is different. We have to improve LNG on all the facilities. So methane technology, CNG and LNG have the potential both to significantly decarbonize transport usage in a very short term and pave the way to first application of blended fuels like hydromethane, something that we are already starting and studying in Italy with our technician, helping to develop the new hydrogen supply chain. If we think about new emerging economies in Central and Eastern Asia and Africa, in particular for countries with oil and gas resources, the more competitive solution for decoupling transport from oil products is methane. And recently, just a few days ago, I had the request to help some countries in Africa to use CNG and LNG as a transport mobility. So that means that we have to look to a new world. We have to look to something coming up are these new countries, especially in Africa. The deployment of natural gas infrastructure will also allow first uses of blended fuels with hydrogen, and in several regions like Europe are already allowing the deep decarbonization of fleets that run on biomethane, CNG and LNG. In Italy, with NAMA, we already tested some blended fuel, gas and hydrogen. Of course, we have to go on with studies and in order to see how much hydrogen can be mixed with gas. While electricity is spreading in urban and light-duty application, we do not think that it will be easy scale up for millions and billions of vehicles in the next decade without adequate investments in grid infrastructure. I understand and I think that in the future, if we don't keep up using endothermic engine, lots of poor people will not have access to cars and to mobility. And that's something we have to think about. According to Italian, it was a big mistake to sign for Europe the end of endothermic engine by 2035. In fact, while the generation of electricity from renewable become less and less costly, will not necessarily be the case for electricity prices, especially now, if we consider all added costs for infrastructure needs. It is a recent news that not everybody knows that Tesla has increased the cost of electricity for its customer at the recharging station up to 60 euro kilowatt hour. And that's really the sign that something is not going to work fine. In this framework, it is wrong to imagine transport decarbonization through one and only technology, an energy carrier of fuel. I think it's also extremely, we just recently, if we just count in one source, you will be in trouble very soon. So we have to learn from this history and especially the history of today. In different regions and different sectors, natural gas will be a fundamental driver for transport decarbonization. Coming to Europe, the restructuring of natural gas supplies will move towards more and more LNG needs, and the related infrastructure can push new small-scale LNG initiative, aiming also at transport uses. Europe has several opportunities, starting from the development of existing collaboration and new ones in the Eastern Mediterranean, and also at domestic level with the development of biomethane production. In addition, the positive evolution of LNG capacity at world level, together with the hope finish of Russia-Ukraine conflict, something that everybody hopes, will rebalance markets and competitive LNG supplies will be available. I'm very finished. In the short term, the situation will lead to increasing costs without governmental measures, but in the mid-long term, the new sourcing can design new partnership in the Southern Mediterranean, also for green hydrogen export. If the new natural gas infrastructure will be built hydrogen ready. At present time, Many Northern Africa and Gulf countries are developing hydrogen projects, looking with interest at Europe as a destination market. And Italy could be really the hub for hydrogen from the Mediterranean to the rest of Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this very concise statement. Panos, if I may say, Panos, you're the expert, right? You're an engineer, you do all the calculations. And if you hear all about this, you know, those big dreams that you hear from those.
I'm also an engineer. But
yeah, but you have big dreams now, and you get paid for investing in all of this.
We will get there.
Whereas,
so I'm more independent, but I have a connection.
Not saying that.
But I'm first of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me in this panel and the opportunity to speak about our activities. So what an academic or a researcher is looking here? Well, we are very well connected to the ministry and what Constantinos mentioned, because we are already involved in one of the IPCIs that Constantinos mentioned. And another link is that we have also activities in Ptolemais. So we are talking about a different world. This was coal dependent. We leave out coal, which means we go to new sources, renewables, but then storage comes. And we have a huge project, one IPCI for the electrolyzers and the fuel cells construction in the area. And at the same time, we have a small project with BT Composites, a small enterprise, that they are doing storage tanks. So we can feel all the enthusiasm we had in the morning session by the minister, and also Mr. Papathanasis, it's also in the same ministry. He's what we say the Minister for West Macedonia, because this is where we start the revolution for the new energy sources. What I want to say is that it's difficult to transform from gas to other sources, but it's even more difficult to transform from coal to other sources. So you can imagine which difficulties we face in the specific area. But it is also a big challenge. We are connected to the projects for IPCI because we are doing also our own project, the Hydrogen Hub. We envisage to have the first hydrogen valley in the area. And why we do this? Because there is a big interest from the TSO, from DESFA, that has the new pipeline network there, and their ambition is to have a hydrogen ready, 100% hydrogen ready pipelines. And this can be connected to the neighbor countries, Bulgaria, Romania, but also to Africa. So we have taken this initiative to start with a small infrastructure. Infrastructure is needed. And then to build up a network, how you can commercialize hydrogen and how you can transport hydrogen. The biggest challenge we face is how to drop hydrogen costs, hydrogen production costs. Based on the recent studies, the hydrogen cost ranges from 3.5 to 6 euros per kilo, and it's mostly 5 to 6 euros. And the challenge is we have to drop this in less than half, so less than 3 euros per kilo. That's the big challenge. Take into account that the fossil produced hydrogen from natural gas, it's about 1.8 euro or dollars per kilo, which sums up to 2.5 if you add the capture, the CO2 capture mentioned also before. So we have a few challenges to face there about the production, and this is how the European Union and the European Commission sets the target that we put this 3 billion that were mentioned before in order to decrease the cost, but it's not only production, it's also transportation, storage. We have to face these challenges as well. And this is where the efforts of the academia and the researchers are joining forces with the enterprises. Two more things that I would like to say, because we have to connect also to the previous session about the maritime. It was mentioned that biofuels, it's only for aviation, but methanol is there. Methanol can be used for shipping if this is available. And why we need this? Because it can be used in the existing infrastructure. We heard about LNG. Yes, LNG is coming very aggressively and it's reducing carbon, but it should be combined, as correctly mentioned by Mr. Mitru, with CO2 capture. But CO2 capture, what do you do with CO2 when it's captured? You have to use it. So you have to go to other technologies like the direct air capture. And if you can make this combination, which is not for now, it's not the transition period, but the future, then you can compete. But again, the idea is that methanol is the the dominant fuel that could play a role in the zero emission shipping. But then for green hydrogen and ammonia, it was correctly mentioned that we have other problems like safety issues. Last but not least, about the aviation sector, that it was mentioned, biofuels, yes, biofuels will play the key role, but we have also e-fuels, synthetic fuels, non-biological origin, that could pay this, that could add in the percentage of the aviation fuels. So all in all, we have different perspectives. We have to seek the ways how we can reduce the cost and introduce the different alternatives in our energy mix.
Well, thank you very much. I'll give you the word in a second, Constantinos, but I'm a little bit baffled. I live in Norway at the moment, and it's a completely different perspective on the future of green hydrogen coming from Norway. Konstantinos, you wanted to react to what has been said.
Yes, of course. Well, you're sitting on 3 billion fund. So that means that you did a really good job. But comparing to the last comment with the Dutch, but well, the Dutch are doing a really good job in hydrogen. They had 7 projects in the last IPCC wave. But I regret to say that I shouldn't have stopped at the point where I stopped, because I feel that I have a couple of comments and we need to inject some realism in the equation. So regarding the cost structure, well, the current energy crisis has been a crash test to understand that we can really design a new system, following a top-down approach. Thank God, the EU's controversial additionality rules for green hydrogen died last week in the European Parliament. And that would, I just see it as a very strong signal to the investing community that was about to go short on the European continent. The same goes with the hydrogen colors. Well, it's nice to talk about colors, but it's good to educate people. Thank God that the investing community and the industry is moving away from the coloring of hydrogen, and it's concentrating on the carbon density of each process. And I would like to give a very nice example of how we set the goals and what's the reality and what factors should be in the equation. Let's go to the mega massive super duper project in Saudi Arabia, the NEOM project. To meet the NEOM project has a production of 650 tons per day of green hydrogen, 1.2 million tons per annum of green ammonia, and it costs $7 billion. So in order to meet the 2030 targets with green and only green hydrogen, we need 50 NEOM projects. And at the same time, we need 20 kilometers times 20 kilometers. Okay, I'm not in the real estate business, but I don't think that we can afford such a mega structure. So there is no right and wrong. I like the previous suggestion of plan A and B, and perhaps C and D would be also good, especially in these times. But when we talk about the competitiveness of hydrogen, we need to make sure that the hydrogen market works, no disruption, adequate liquidity, and less politicization. Last but not least, I want to highlight here that strategically, it will not be wise at all to alienate the major energy corporations from hydrogen. First of all, they are the ones that have been traditionally, the capacity to work on large-scale projects. So therefore, I think that it's wiser to engage with them so that we see them turning themselves at least from gray hydrogen to blue hydrogen, and then from low-carbon hydrogen to green hydrogen. The larger the players, the larger the result on our global effort to reduce emissions and combat climate change. I'm not sure if I am forgetting anything, but...
You probably forgot lots of things,
I know,
but we only have 30 minutes and we have to catch up time. Thank you very much for trying. Mrs. President Baroni online, is there anything you would like to add at this moment in time? Because otherwise I will open up the floor for questions from the audience, and I will have a final statement from my 3 panelists to be prepared for a final question, okay?
I just want to add that we need moleculars, and we have to work for that. And so the voice of NGV Italy and the new Association World Gas Mobility Council will go around the world to say that without moleculars, we will have great problems for industries, especially in countries like Africa and Asia. So thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Of course, we think that electricity will have its own sector when we are talking about light duty and city transport, maybe in the future. But I don't see a track of Iveco going from the Alps to Sicily on battery now, or given fuel cells. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the audience? There's one in the front. Professor Haas, please.
Hello, thank you for your statements. I have a pretty critical question. The overall hydrogen system is pretty inefficient, so almost all chains have a lot of losses compared to, for example, direct use of electricity. In addition, if you do not focus on green hydrogen, but of any hydrogen, then you do not even have a serious reduction of emissions. So what is the purpose of all these efforts?
Thank you.
It is, maybe I start. It is true that we have a lot of challenges to face about hydrogen, not only production, but also storage and transportation. But it's not only green hydrogen, it's the most critical and the dominant hydrogen at the end of the day. But we have also blue hydrogen and other forms of hydrogen that you can use, and it can be as efficient as possible. So I don't agree that hydrogen is inefficient, because there are things that we don't know. And this is the reason why we need more infrastructure projects in order to build up and have the know-how how we are going to face these problems and build up the hydrogen economy. To add on what Constantinos mentioned, apart from the costs, we must have a uniform framework how to manage hydrogen. So we need knowledge about standardization, and also we need to develop the whole value chain. So I think there are things that we don't know yet, and not that this is just inefficient, because based on calculations and the studies made till now, green hydrogen is proven to be the future and the prevailing, the dominant fuel in the sector. And this is the competition also between the gas sector and the electricity. You know, the TSOs, the gas suppliers, they don't want to leave the room to the electricity only. So they have, in a way, to make greener their grids, and hydrogen is an option.
Panos, thank you very much. Is there do you have to respond to that as well?
Just one line. Hydrogen is not hydrogen or death, you know. It's my favorite line from last year was hydrogen is the Swiss Army knife of decarbonization. So we need to be able to distinct the uses of hydrogen and the uses of electricity. And then everything will come together and we'll work on the optimization of efficiency.
I think there is a projection about the hydrogen production, and I think until 2050 we have a projection about 113 million tons of production, which is split in the different sectors. Most of it will go to the transportation, then we have the industrial use, and then a little bit, about 10%, if I remember well, about the chemical industry. So this is the target set in order to meet the demand.
So that brings me actually to my final question. I think I know your answers already. I'm a little bit want to see what Ms. Baroni is going to say. My final question to each of the panelists is hydrogen or synthetic methane a business case for the natural gas lobby, or really a sensible reality?
Nice question. Well, we have to be able to talk real things. So hydrogen is a gas, period. So we don't need to talk about hydrogen purchase agreements. It's a gas purchase agreement, right? Then, of course, in order to have the Swiss bankers mobilized and being able to back those contracts, we need to be serious. So it's too early But at the same time, an anecdote that I really love, it's a friend of mine, I spoke about Switzerland, that's why I remembered. He said, so if you see a Swiss banker jumping off the window, you should better jump, because there should be a margin. So in our case, in Greece, the Swiss bankers are the Greek shipping owners, right? So, because I've been asked several times the question about the maritime, we are talking about a multi-e-fuel business, ammonia ready or methanol, as Panagiotis mentioned. So the shipping community is monitoring very closely, and I think that we're gonna see some opportunities in the next years. So I do think that, the gas lobby has a very significant role to play in order to have and see this market joining its pieces and making sense for the investing community.
Thank you very much. Short statement online, Ms. Baroni.
Well, what I say, it's we really have to be a very strong lobby, because we have to face, I would say, a new world. A new world is going to be in front of us. So if we are not together and we are not strong in looking for something that will help both the decarbonization of the world and allow people to have energy, we will have big problems. So I agree totally what was just said about LNG and about hydrogen. We need to be pragmatic and to find pragmatic solution. I think that when you take decision only that imply only emotion, well, that's not good for people. People need a pragmatic solution.
Thank you very much. The last 23 seconds of the session go to you.
Yeah, I totally agree with Constantinos that the gas lobbying is looking for business. And I think this is the corridor for the hydrogen business, and especially the green hydrogen.
Thank you very much for this very open statement at the end. Thank you, everybody, for attending the session. And we have a smooth transition to the last session before lunch. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you again. Bye-bye.